Welcome to episode 6 of the Fantasy Show with Aman and Evan. I'm your host, Aman Adkarni,
And I'm your co-host, Evan Garber.
and today we are going to react to fantasy teams in our league that we are in. Obviously, we're showing our faces for the first time. Moving on, it's going to be like this for every episode, every fantasy show, and every shorts we post exclusively on TikTok and YouTube, by the way, Mondays through Wednesdays starting next week. And we're going to post about 2 shorts per day. And the days we aren't posting shorts, we're going to post clips from Fantasy Show and the normal episodes. So you're going to get everything sports with Aman and Evan content every single day of the week. But now let's start reacting to fantasy teams. We're going to be going through the conference. Patrick Mahomes, that's great value for me personally. This is my team, by the way. 5th round, getting Patrick Mahomes. Not many people went with QB early, other than Justin Herbert, who was taken in the 3rd round, like you'll see when we go move on to the next team. I thought Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Herbert were the 3 QBs that are drafted early, and then I'll end up with a decent to great quarterback when I want to draft one in like the 5th, 6th, 7th round. That was not the case because I got Patrick Mahomes in the 5th round. Great value for my pick. He might decline without Patrick. I said Patrick Mahomes, my bad. Without Tyreek Hill, but I think he's still going to be a great fantasy quarterback. Took a huge risk with McCaffrey. He was my 4th pick. As a Panthers fan, I fully believe he's going to have a healthy season and be dominant again because when he's fully healthy, he's one of the best running backs in the league, period. And Evan, what do you think about my team?
I think your team is really good. Obviously, you have Patrick Mahomes, who's one of the best, if not the best, quarterback. Yes, Christian McCaffrey, who's obviously a huge risk, but I think he'll be healthy this season and he will be the best fantasy running back. And then Aaron Jones is a great pickup. They're going to run the ball a lot more in Green Bay than they used to, especially now that Devontae Adams is gone. Stephon Diggs is great. Waddle, obviously now he's a wide receiver too with Tyreek Hill there, but I still think he'll be great. Mark Andrews is always great in fantasy football. Elijah Mitchell, that'll be interesting. I don't think that the Niners will use Debo as much as they did before in the run game, so Elijah Mitchell will get a lot more touches at the running back position. And then your bench is pretty solid too. Antonio Gibson is really good. Amari Cooper should have a good season now in Cleveland, but obviously he'll struggle a little bit with the quarterback situation there. And Devin Singletary, Hunter Renfrow, Dawson Knox, that bench is pretty solid. And then we had that trade that we made a couple of days ago where I traded you Drake London for Rashad Bateman.
Yep. I mean, with that trade, they're both rookie receivers. I was like, why not? And what's funny is when we were, side note, behind the scenes, we have been trying to press record on this episode for the past 45 minutes. And this trade actually just processed in the middle of all that, is what I just realized. But yeah, I mean, great trade for both of us. And my draft strategies have just been to get the best player available for my starters and then slowly build my bench each round. Instead of, like you'll see with the few other teams, they drafted their starters first and then their bench. So their bench is relatively weaker to other teams. What has your draft strategies been really through fantasy? Because I feel like you could still use the same draft strategies no matter what sport it is.
Yeah, my draft strategy is pretty similar to yours. I like to go the starters first, but obviously in football, kickers and defense last. But then in the after I draft my starters, I like to go for my bench, and I like to draft guys that are either close to number one option or the number one option, because I want my guys down the bench to be good. I want them to be able to fill in for the guys that get injured on my team because it's football, and there's always going to be injuries. Everyone's going to get injured at some point in their career, pretty much. So I really like to have my bench as deep as possible.
Yeah, I mean, same goes there. We're going to the next team now, and their strategy was starters first and then bench. They will have a relatively weaker bench. Herbert, third round. Was it a reach? I don't know. I feel like Herbert's going to be electric. He already is. I just feel like he's going to have a breakout season because, I mean, let's the Chargers. Let's just talk about the Chargers for a second. That whole division, not even just the Chargers, is so stacked. We always talk about the NFC West, but their division right now, without even playing a game, might actually be the most competitive division in football. Seriously. I know people make predictions. This could be another not even bold, another prediction that goes wrong because I believe I posted an episode a while ago, my NFL playoff predictions. I was 5-6 on wild card, I believe. The Raiders game was the only game I got wrong because I hyped up Derek Carr too much. My bad for that. And then it went down from there. But predictions are predictions. They're already the most stacked team, stacked division, my bad, in football. What do you think about their division just for a second?
Yeah, that division is insane. I mean, it's so crazy to think that now the Kansas City Chiefs, who everyone thought was going to run the league for the next, 5+ years, they actually might be the worst team in the division. Like, that's pretty insane.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, react to this team real quickly. I mean, you can see a slightly weaker bench, but let's react.
Yeah, I still think it's a pretty solid team. Obviously, Herbert was taken a little too early. Javonte Williams, he's a beast, but last year he split with Melvin Gordon, and it probably will split a little bit with him again this year. So he's a little iffy. Mike Williams, he's going to split touches with Keenan Allen and obviously Eckler out of the backfield. And George Kittle, he had an iffy season last year too. So there's a lot of question marks on this team, but I think if everyone performs to their potential, this team's going to be pretty solid.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like with this brother, who I believe is next, his team has a lot of potential as well. Jalen Hurts, your boy, I know, Derrick Henry, J.K. Dobbins, C.D. Lamb, DJ Moore, Kyle Pitts, Michael Thomas, and then to be honest, I don't really care about defense and kicker. And then his bench, I did tell the league we were allowed one IR spot. He went with both. Deshaun Watson, I mean, he has a good quarterback already. He's just trying to do that. Could be trade bait if he explodes, but I mean, the Deshaun Watson suspension, you'll hear our thoughts tomorrow when we post the normal episode on that suspension because 11 games and the first game he's back is at Houston. Like, everyone can see right through it. How is his first game at Houston for something that he did or may have not did? His first game's at Houston. That's just money moves for the NFL. The cost of so many people, Hopkins, we know, but react to this team with the slightly weaker bench, but I feel like a lot of potential on this team.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, you have one question mark is the running back too at the running back spot, J.K. Dobbins, with Lamar Jackson obviously being the number one running back. But yeah.
That's funny. I see what you did there.
No, but yeah, there's a few question marks though with Michael Thomas, who's coming back from his long, very long break. I guess you can call it if you want to call it that. He's gonna be iffy, but I think he's gonna be one of the better receivers in the league. And then Kyle Pitts, he's gonna be interesting too. Obviously, he might be the number one target, probably will be the number one target on that team, but Mariota, he has to prove it. And C.D. Lamb, nobody knows yet. Obviously, he's going to get a lot more touches this year with Amari Cooper now gone. And I think he's going to break out this season. I really hope he does too.
Yeah. But, I mean, he actually might because a lot of Cowboys receivers have been going down recently. Next team is my brother's team, Kyler's homework. Everyone who watches football knows the joke there. he prioritized quarterback less than some, I believe. But Dak Prescott's still not a bad fantasy quarterback, in my opinion. And Jonathan Taylor was drafted first overall. And then Deandre Swift, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, and then defense kicker. To me, to be honest, that doesn't matter for me. He might change Jerry Jeudy for Josh Jacobs, in my opinion, but he really likes Brandon Ayuk. I'm just going to get ahead of this. He is a diehard Niners fan. Hence why, if we, for example, let's just look at this. 11th round, not last round, one of the last rounds, backup quarterback, Trey Lance. But he traded a lot for Brandon Ayuk. He traded Allen Lazard and Allen Robinson for Brandon Ayuk. He's really high on Ayuk. He believes that Samuel's production would be lower with Ayuk now healthy and Elijah Mitchell and whatnot. So Trey Lance, we'll see about that, but he wants to switch between Metcalf and Ayuk, which I think is an interesting strategy because Metcalf could be inconsistent with, especially with Drew Lock, Geno Smith, or whoever the quarterback's going to be. But what do you think about his team?
Yeah, I think that this is not as good of a team that we've seen so far. There's too many question marks on this team. Josh Jacobs, he's a question mark. He either performs well or doesn't do much at all. DK Metcalf, who knows what kind of season he's gonna have. AJ Brown might have a down year, but like now that he's on the Eagles with Devontae Smith too. Let's see, Deandre Swift. He's usually pretty good in fantasy, but occasionally he'll have those games where he's not very good. But then, yeah, you plug in some of the bench players like Jerry Jeudy and maybe Chris Olave, they might be studs this year. I think they will be studs. So I think if he plays it right, this team could be pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. Old Bull is back. He's a big basketball fan. We went Lamar Jackson, Mixon, Kamara. To be honest, I don't know what's happening with Kamara. Is he going to play? I don't know if he's going to be suspended or not. But TJ Hawkinson, Nick Chubb, he's got Michael Pittman, who I believe may have a breakout year, Jamar Chase. And then there's a lot of teams with, like, I feel like my team doesn't necessarily have the potential to be great. I just feel like my team has like a lot of proven players in fantasy. But like, for example, Jamar Chase is going to have a bigger role. Pittman's going to have a bigger role and whatnot. So there's potential there. So a lot of potential in these teams. Like Mike Evans on his bench, I really like his bench. I feel like he has a really solid bench. Russell Wilson potentially could switch between Lamar Jackson, the main running back of the Ravens, and Russell Wilson. So I feel like this is a pretty good team.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think his team is very solid. Obviously, I like my bench depth, and he really has that. But obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with Kamara, so that's a question mark. And then Nick Chubb, he gets injured a good amount of the time, so he's also a question mark. And Pittman,
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. He is going to break out. Pittman is going to have this amazing season with Matt Ryan now at the quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this could be the year where so many teams compete for these playoff spots, because usually at the end of the season it's only like two, but I feel like a lot of these teams got it right. And my friend here has got Josh Allen, has got Saquon. Cordero Patterson is a weak running back pick. We'll probably trade for some towards the end of the year. He's got Kareem Hunt on his bench. So once he sets his lineup, Hunt will be his starting running back. And then Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Dalton Schultz, Keenan Allen. I feel like he's generally active in our leagues, but I feel like he may be fighting for a fourth seed or miss the playoffs. in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Like you said, is Cordero Patterson. He's not going to be as good as he was for that little stint last year. Saquon, who knows what he's going to do this year? I think that he's going to be a way better than he was last season, but I don't think he'll be as good as he once was. Josh Allen and Cooper Kupp, they'll probably have to carry the team, and Tyreek Hill might break out too. But yeah, I think that the Cordero Patterson and Cordero Patterson and Saquon Barkley, I think that'll bring the team down a little bit, and I think it'll be a little too much.
Yeah, definitely. And like Tyreek Hill's new quarterback too. So we will see. This is a slightly longer fantasy show because we're reacting to everyone's team. I'll just save Evan's team for last. This is my uncle's team. I'm gonna get ahead of it. He auto drafted the entire thing, which is why on the bench you see tons of receivers, and then the one running back, and then you got Rodgers and Brady, which I thought was kind of funny. But you got Eckler in the first round, Leonard Fournette, Deebo Samuel, T. Higgins, Zach Ertz, and Cam Akers, and then defense kicker. But who knows? Like, according to projections, he's a 4 seed because you look at that receiver, all those receivers are dangerous. Like, when I say that I want to try and get a receiver to make my team better, I have running backs. I potentially have trade bait to get these receivers, but I feel like auto draft was really kind to him compared to other auto drafts we've seen. What have you just give your quick thoughts on his team?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was pretty generous. Leonard Fournette, who knows what season he's going to have, especially with that amazing wide receiver core in Tampa Bay. And then Zach Ertz, Cam Akers, those are okay picks. I just don't think they'll pan out this year, but who knows? Maybe they'll surprise me.
Yeah. We'll see. Once he sorts his team out, I feel like he could be one of those dangerous teams in the league, but react to your team.
Yeah, obviously, I love my team. Quarterback situation was a little iffy. I really, really wanted Jalen Hurts. He's my guy. But Kyler Murray, I'm still happy with that. I'm still happy he's going to have a pretty good season. Obviously, he might not be as good at the beginning of the season with D-Hop out. But then my running backs and my wide receivers, I feel like are pretty good. Najee Harris, James Conner, Justin Jefferson, and Terry McLaurin. And then I was really, really happy that I was able to get Travis Kelce. Once I saw him on the board, I was hoping that he would not get picked. Fell right to me. Had to scoop him up. And then I really love my bench. My bench depth is really, really solid. And I'm hoping that they can help me when my players get injured.
Yeah, and real quickly, you see Kenneth Walker on the bench. It's the other Seattle Seahawks running back. I forget his name, but you're bouncing between him because Chris Carson unfortunately retired due to his neck injuries. But Stafford back at quarterback, I really, really like your bench. It's a real solid bench. And then obviously the Bateman London trade we did. But I feel like I don't want to brag, consistently been one of the best in the league, consistently pretty much. But
I try.
I mean, obviously injuries happen, which we obviously can't control. But Kyler Murray, still a great pick. And you said Travis Kelce. Kelce was my first choice at tight end. But when you drafted him, I was still fine with Mark Andrews. And luckily he didn't get picked because last year when I said I was on a call with my friend and I was like, oh, I'm going to get Mark Andrews here. Immediately gets drafted. Oh, and George Kittle actually went with the first pick last year. But I forget, I ended up with Kyle Pitts. I mean, he did break out towards the end of the year. But we were so close to doing a Kyle Pitts for Mike Davis deal, but luckily you waited a week. We didn't do that deal, but like I ended up with Kyle Pitts. I was so happy I got Mark Andrews this year, but I really, really like your team. So those are all the teams in our league. Comment below who you think had the best team. DM on Instagram, whatever it is, Twitter, whatever it is. But TikTok, new TikTok link is in the description below. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok now. Then obviously like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the normal episode of Everything Sports with Aman and Evan.